Hi, I'm Nicolette.
And I'm Sean.
And welcome to The Graveyard Shhift.
In this podcast, we talk about true crime mysteries and the paranormal.
This is where we dig up new dirt on old stories that you may or may not have heard before.
We try to gather as many facts as possible and then put our own spin on what may have happened.
We don't gather all the facts, just enough to tell the story.
So if we've missed something important, let us know.
But don't be a dick about it. And please, keep your private detectiveness to yourself.
Other than that, kick back, relax, and welcome to The Graveyard Shhift.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey, everybody.
Welcome to The Graveyard.
Sorry.
Step in.
And go. Hey, everybody. I'm Nicolette.
And I'm Sean.
How have you been, Sean?
I've been great. I've been really great. And a lot of stuff going on. Working really hard.
Yeah, same.
Doing good stuff.
Trying to take vacations here and there. It's hard to get those in. I'm actually working on a promotion at my job right now. So
you are?
Yeah.
Nice.
Hopefully I get it very soon.
Definitely hope so.
So that means I can't take very much time off. But I hope that we get to go on vacations such as, like the Florida Keys.
Yes,
and this next place that we're going to take a trip down to.
Where are you taking us today? What are we talking about today?
My favorite place.
Yeah.
Nolans.
Oh, I love Nolans. Yes, I've had some good memories there.
Yeah. Oh man. So I've my parents took us there when I was 12.
Yeah.
This is another time when I was 12-ish, 12, 13, something like that. And then we went again when I was about 15, 16 years old. But every time I go, a new experience happens.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it was a little later on in life that I went, not 15, 16, because I was actually able to go down Bourbon Street and drink. So the first time I was not able to.
Never have done that at 15.
Not ever. Sorry, Dad. Oh, I swear I didn't. But going down Bourbon Street, there are lots of voodoo shops.
Yes, I have seen.
And
I love it.
A lot of really cool history there.
There's just such culture in that city, and I just love it. I mean, then why? Yeah, I love the music. I love the art. I love the feelings of some of the spookier side. Yeah. Oh, the food. Hell yeah.
Heck yeah. I think that was the first time I ever tried oysters.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Beignets. Yeah.
Yeah. Beignets. Beignet. French coda.
Yeah.
So I have a silly story.
All right, tell me.
A personal silly story of like the first time that I went to Nolans with my family and a couple of family friends, Wayne, Diane, and their daughter. And their daughter, Angelica, stayed in a room with me. Now, Angelica was preteenish, kind of tweens age. And my brothers were younger than me, and they're being little shitheads as they are. Kids, boys specifically. So they didn't want to eat the New Orleans food, and that at that time I was like super into gumbo and jambalaya, and I'm just exploring my culinary taste buds there.
Nice.
And my brothers were very much into McDonald's.
Okay.
And we were staying at a place that to me felt like it could have some paranormal activity going on.
Yeah.
So I was very much like I think there's something here. And if you look in like the balcony areas or up in the ceilings of just outside of whatever room you're in the hotels, they will paint blue up on have you ever seen that?
I'm sure I have. I just never paid that specific detail to the
There's a reason for that. There's a spiritual paranormal reason for that, actually.
Really?
And the reason is because they don't want the spirits to feel stuck, so they paint it blue like the sky so they can ascend.
Are you serious? That is something I've never heard. That's an awesome
cool?
See? Giving you some new information on the Graveyard Shhift. That's cool. I like that.
It's very neat.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, at this time, I'm staying in a room with Angelica, and my brothers are being little shitheads and throwing their McDonald's burger patties on our windows. I'm sorry, hotel staff. And so Angelica and I got a little frustrated at this, and we decided to go into like the lobby area where they have, donuts.
Oh yeah,
like
sure.
The complimentary. You can have one pastry.
Yes.
For the morning. So we decided to pick out our pastries beforehand.
Okay.
Before we went to bed. And so we took them back to our room. And I'm like, I'm not going to eat mine until the morning. You shouldn't eat yours until the morning, right?
Yeah. Don't eat the donut at night.
I mean,
eat it in the morning. It's so great. And you look forward to it.
It's going to keep you awake.
Exactly. I was going to say sugar rush. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but Angelica's like 13. So she is a sugar hound at this time. Yeah. And I hope she's not listening. I might be giving away secrets. So we have our donuts and we put them kind of in the bathroom area. And the lids are down on our little boxes, right? And we go to bed. And in the morning, we wake up and her donut box is open. And there are bites taken out of her donut. And I'm like, did you eat this? And she's like, no. Like, and it wasn't like a no. It was like a no. I swear I didn't touch it. Kind of
really.
Thing.
And I mean, did she seem believable? Did she seem like?
Again, I'm like 15, 14, 15. I'm believing a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm not a parent.
But I feel like she would have had the whole thing though. But
you would think so, but there's only a few bites taken out of it. I'm sure she was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna nibble a little bit and whatever." Yeah. She swears up and down it wasn't her.
Really?
So for years, I'm like, "Oh my god, a ghost ate our donut!"
Eating ghost.
And I swear, I even asked her, and I'm sure she's fucking with me to this day. I even asked her like last year, "You swear you didn't eat that donut?" And she's like, "I swear."
Well, there is a thing called sleep eating. I don't know if because I've woken up in the middle of the night, made myself a peanut butter sandwich, but it's usually because I've been drunk or something.
Well, I mean,
sorry, but we
don't drink on this show.
No,
we only take introductory shots. Oh.
Next morning, I found the bread and the peanut butter. I'm like, who did this?
Yeah,
this
was a ghost.
Me. But that's funny though. That's a funny story.
Yeah. So I have a not so ghostly tale about donuts.
I wish that was like a thing, like leaving cookies out for Santa Claus. Like if you could just leave donuts out, and then whatever ghosts happen to be around would come and appear, like we're calling the spirits with donuts.
Right? That would be cool, really man. Funny. Well, I mean, apparently you're supposed to, before you do a seance, you're supposed to eat sugar. Or have sugar before you do the seance because it's supposed to attract the spirits and it kind of opens you up. It makes you a little more aware. Yeah. Which is interesting. And another fact, I learned that on another podcast. The Ghost Magnet by Bridget Marcourt.
Okay, right.
She was doing a seance at her friend Holly Madison's place. That was fun. But yeah, so go have your sugar and settle down for this tale that we're going to cover in Nolans of the LaLaurie Mansion.
Excellent.
Now, it's said a couple of different ways. So it's LaLaurie or LaLaurie.
LaLaurie.
If you have seen American Horror Story, they cover that on Coven.
Oh, yeah. I love that season.
Yeah, I love that
That's
season,
a great season
too. That was so good. Also, I think I'm a witch. No, I'm just kidding. So we're just going to break right into the story. My references for this are Wikipedia, as per usual, because they're amazing, and
absolutely
they cover kind of all the bases. Also, if you want to see Wikipedia keep going and me continuing to do these stories, please donate a little tiny bit to them so that they can keep their research going. Yeah. My other references are ghostcitytours.com and nolaghosts.com. And that'll come into play later because they've got a lot of really cool stories.
Oh, cool, yeah.
I kind of mismatched a bunch of stuff, so bear with me. If you've heard anything about hauntings or ghosts in New Orleans, then you most likely have heard about the LaLaurie Mansion. But let's get started at the beginning of this gruesome tale to get a little bit of history behind the horror that is glorious yet terrifying in this mansion.
All right.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Okay, so our story begins with the birth of a girl named Marie Delphine McCarty.
Okay.
Marie
Delphine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, everybody's named Marie back then.
Yeah,
aren't they?
right.
She was a member of a large, wealthy, and politically powerful McCarty clan.
Okay.
Okay. She was born in New Orleans on March 19th, 1787, to Louis Barthélemy de McCarty, who was originally called Chevalier de McCarty. You like my French accent?
Yeah, pretty good.
He's
Oui.
McCarthy, basically, is his last name. So I'm going to get into that. But they were Irish people that traveled from Ireland to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And we will find out why in a moment.
Okay.
So Louis Barthélemy's father, who was simply called Barthélemy de McCarthy, brought the McCarthy family to New Orleans from Ireland around 1730, during the French colonial period. So the French and English were having their battles. The Irish surname McCarthy was shortened to McCarty, or de McCarty, because now you're in New Orleans and it's French and a little bit Spanish. It's a melting pot there, you know.
A little bit of...
which is why Marie Delphine is by this time a McCarty. Her mother's name was Marie Jean L'Herbal, also known as the Widow Lecombe.
Ooh.
Yes. Because her marriage to Louis de McCarty was her second marriage, and her previous husband passed away, which makes sense, is why she's the Widow Lecombe. Marie Delphine was the second-born child in her family, not a middle child.
No? Okay.
But...
second-born of a few.
I think there were like 5 kids.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, she's got a brother that's older than her, and then it's her.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, though, her baptismal record was not entered into the sacramental register until December 26th, 1793. So that's almost 5 years after her birth.
Was there a reason for that?
Generally speaking, they usually do that if the child is close to death, or they're kind of questioning whether she might be close to death.
Right, so sick after she's born.
Yeah. So there, scary time for poor little Delphine. Both Marie Delphine's parents were prominent in the town's European Creole community, obviously. Delphine's uncle by marriage, Esteban Rodrigo Miro, was governor of the Spanish-American provinces of Louisiana and Florida during 1785 and 1791. And her cousin, Augustin de McCarty, I spelt it wrong. I spelt it McCatry. It's McCarty. Was mayor of New Orleans from 1815 to 1820. So there's a lot of like really prominent people in her family.
Nice.
Politically.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go into her first marriage now. On June 11th of 1800, Marie Delphine married Don Ramon de Lopez y Angulo, who is a caballero de la Royal de Carlos, or in English, a high-ranking Spanish royal officer.
Yes.
Did you like my Spanish?
I loved it.
All right. He was stationed at the St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans. Louisiana had become a Spanish colony in the 1760s after France was defeated by Great Britain in the 7 Years War.
The 7-Year War.
Yeah.
You know about the 7-Year War, yeah.
In 1804, after the American acquisition of what was then French territory, Don Ramon had been appointed to the position of consul general for Spain in the territory of New Orleans, or Orleans. It wasn't New Orleans yet.
Right.
And was called to appear at the court of Spain. While en route to Madrid, Delphine, who was pregnant at the time, they were both traveling to Madrid.
Yeah.
Don Ramon suddenly died in Havana on the way to Madrid. Delphine was not with him when he passed, which, I mean, that if she was, that could be suspicious as fuck. But a few days after his mysterious death, because we don't know how he died at all, Delphine gave birth to his daughter, Marie Borgia, or it's spelled Borja, which is like Borja.
Okay.
Or Borgia, Borgia.
Borgia, yeah.
So Marie Borgia Delphine Lopez y Ángel de la Calendaria.
That's one person.
Yes. How many names?
Quite a name.
How many names? How many names are we going to tack onto this person? Say that 5 times fast, by the way. She was nicknamed Borquita.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's cute.
Borquita.
It's a little Borquita. The widow Delphine and baby Borquita returned to New Orleans shortly thereafter. Okay, so her second marriage now.
Yeah.
Since her last husband, Don Ramon, died.
On the route to Madrid.
So, second marriage and death of new husband.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Okay, so in June of 1808, that's not very
It's not that long.
long between.
And we're sure she wasn't with him when he died in Havana. Okay. Just
yeah, suspicious. Delphine married Jacques Blanc. He was a prominent banker, a merchant, and a lawyer and a legislator.
Oh, nice.
Okay. And at the time of the marriage, Blanc purchased a house at 409 Royal Street, which is Rue Royale, if you're in New Orleans or you speak French. Rue Royale.
A banker and a lawyer.
I know, right?
Banker, yeah, I feel very inadequate right now.
Same.
That's okay.
I've been a hairdresser and an escrow assistant and a notary public. And that's about it. A receptionist. Yeah. Sorry. I need to go back to school.
It's I'm a senator and a brain
governor
surgeon.
And yeah.
All right.
It's too many things. And find your lane. That's all I'm saying. Delphine had 4 children with Blanc, and their names were Marie-Louise Pauline, Louise-Marie Laurie, Marie-Louise Jean, and Jean-Pierre, or Jean-Pierre, but it's spelled like Jean, like a woman, like a girl.
Yeah. Okay.
Jean-Pierre Pauline Blanc. Okay? Too many names, and all of them have Marie. They're all Marie. So just one right after another.
Well, there's so many names. You got to throw in some of the same ones so you can remember them. Because I don't know if I can remember. If I had all these kids with the names, I'd be like, oh, wait, you are.
Okay, so when I was growing up, I was Knit, Eric, Crit. Yeah. Somebody get the fuck in here. Oh. So if you name them all Marie, I guess somebody's going to come.
Marie.
Marie, get your ass out of here. Oh. Their father, Jean Blanc, died in 1816, and there are no accounts as to why. Poison. Oh.
Wait a second. That's 2 mysterious deaths.
I know.
Okay.
Here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
3rd time's a charm.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
It was Delphine's 3rd and final marriage.
Yeah, okay.
In 1825, on June 25th, that caused most controversy in New Orleans. Okay.
Do tell.
So, you ready? Leonard Louis Nicolas LaLaurie, again with the names. How many names do we need?
Leonardo Louis Nicolas LaLaurie.
Yes. He was a transplant from France because, you're in New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's already
understandable.
French,
why not? That would be a place to,
It's already a Frenchish community with Spanish undertones, which is why you get the Creole. I get it. He was a physician, though today he might be seen more as a chiropractor. Are they really
and
doctors,
a painter.
though? Yeah.
No. Okay, so he is All right. Okay. Chiropractor. All right.
He cut off his own ear. No. Their meeting was not by coincidence. One of Delphine's daughters from her second marriage had some deformities along her spine. So it's kind of like, I kind of want to say she had like scoliosis or something.
Okay, yeah, that sounds it sounds reasonable.
Yeah. But I don't know that you could cure that with a chiropractor. Nah, no. Probably not. I don't think you can cure that at all without like, I don't know, some plastic surgery or surgery of some
No,
kind.
Yeah, they diagnosed me with scoliosis when I was a kid, and then undiagnosed me.
You don't look like you have a squiggly spine.
I don't, but it was funny. Yeah, I was diagnosed multiple times with scoliosis,
yoga.
And then they were like, no, never mind. You don't really have it.
Just kidding.
Yes.
So Louis LaLaurie was hired to cure Delphine's daughter using all sorts of medical equipment that looked quite torturous.
Okay.
Which piqued Delphine's interest.
Interesting. Because you love to see torturous devices used on your
Can we say
child with spine injury. Yeah.
So Delphine's daughter, unfortunately, was not cured.
Oh, well.
But go figure, Delphine was enamored with the physician because of his torturous devices. Even though he was 20 years younger than her.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean...
High five, Marie.
What do you call that? Robbing the Cradle.
Robbing the Cradle, May, December romance.
She's a cougar.
There you go.
Louis and Delphine decided to get married because, well, he had got her pregnant, and it's the right thing to do. In 1831, Delphine bought the property at 1140 Rue Royale, or Royal Street for you Americans.
Royal Street.
Or as like I said, Royal Street. Where she would live with Louis LaLaurie and two of her children. She didn't have all of her children because they were grown by this time. And, well, one of them was deformed. So what are you going to do? Unfortunately, the marriage was not a happy one. Go figure.
If I were him, I'd watch out.
Right?
I mean...
There are two suspicious deaths.
Yeah, exactly.
Of husbands long since passed. Watch your back, dude. Neighbors had overheard the couple arguing profusely, and it was almost unsurprising to them that Louis LaLaurie packed his bags and moved out sometime in early 1834.
Yeah.
Her husband leaving reportedly drove her mad. Go figure.
Okay. Very interesting woman by now. She's already had a very interesting life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So now she went mad. She had two husbands die. One husband left her. One husband who was, an expert in torturous devices used for medicine.
Well, the one who happened to leave her, which I'm sure that he didn't like. Whoops. I'm sure that he didn't like the fact that she was so interested in the torture devices, or maybe he was, but there was maybe she wanted to use them on him. Speculation. Totally my speculation. I've seen too much TV. But we are going to get into some of the stories of what she did and why her mansion has become so infamous.
It's a hotbed of paranormal activity, yeah?
So much a hotbed of paranormal activity and so much trauma that happened on this land. But we'll get back to that right after this break.
Thank you for tuning into The Graveyard Shhift. We'll be taking a short break, so get off the treadmill, park your car, or just grab a cup of coffee during this brief intermission.
You can visit us at TheGraveyardShhift.com.
With 2 H's.
Also, you can view our videos on YouTube.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And email us at TheGraveyardShhift@gmail.com.
Also with 2 H's.
And now, back to our program. Welcome back. We are talking about the LaLaurie Mansion.
The LaLaurie Mansion. And now you were just telling us that Marie at this point had gone mad.
Yes,
after the death of her third husband. Not death of her third. After her third husband left her. Rather.
Yes. Yeah, so 2 husbands die on her, and then the third one just up and decides, I don't want to live with you anymore. You're a basket case. So now she is left to her own devices. But before he leaves, supposedly, there are some things that happen before he cuts out quick.
Curious.
Rumors spread that she was harming her slaves, because as you do at this time, in the
1700s, reminding us...
1700s, it was a bad time of people owning slaves and making people do their dirty work and whatnot, and just taking care of the entire house without pay and very little food. So at this time, the LaLauries housed several black slaves in the slave quarters attached to the Rue Royale Mansion between 1831 and 1834. Accounts of the treatment of her slaves are mixed.
Okay.
So they don't know if the slaves were seriously mistreated or if they were just kind of mistreated. There's a lot of rumors going on.
Gotcha.
So, but a woman named Harriet Martineau wrote a recounting in 1838 of tales told to her by New Orleanians during her visit in 1836. These residents claimed that the LaLaurie slaves were seen to be singularly haggard and wretched, quote unquote.
Oh, no. So she was... Okay.
Yeah.
There's some bad treatment. You could have been a variety of things, but yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they're not bathing or being able to bathe or not being
fed
clothed.
Well, it's but terrible.
I'm sure that many of them were emaciated. So horrible stuff. So we're starting in on on the torture very quickly.
Exactly. And
however, in public appearances, Delphine was seen to be generally polite to black people and solicitous of her slaves' health. Right?
Yeah, how nice of her. That's...
Oh, no, I'll take you to the doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. That makes up for everything, yeah.
Sure.
But anyway, so I want to hear more about these stories that were passed around.
So court records at the time show that Delphine freed 2 of her slaves, Jean-Louis in 1819 and Da Vinci in 1832. So... I mean, you can free some slaves. Did they probably earned their freedom at that point.
Right.
Or were you trying to cover up for something? I mean, I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting...
Let them go so they don't tell on you.
Right, exactly.
If you tell on me, I'm going to come back and get you.
I think we can gather some interesting things that have been going on at this house, at this place, and they would have been privy to see some of this.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Martineau wrote that public rumors about Delphine's mistreatment of her slaves were sufficiently widespread. They were so sufficiently widespread that a local lawyer was sent to Rue Royale to remind Delphine of the laws for the upkeep of slaves.
Okay.
And during this visit, the lawyer found no evidence of wrongdoing or mistreatment of the slaves by Delphine at all. So, I mean, I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But when the police come a-knocking, you try your best to look
exactly
like everything's on the up and up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
not to say that there's been any police coming here at all. But I mean,
but if they were knocking, we'd be... Trying to act right.
Oh no, officer.
No, nothing is fun. No mistreatment going on here, other than the fact that she's keeping slaves. But that's that's mistreatment in and of itself.
Right.
But so she's trying to let them know that she's keeping in with what the laws were then. Taking care of.
I'm feeding them. I'm clothing them. Look, they're clean. It's fine.
Exactly. But maybe there's a little smoke. There's a little fire. So some people know some things are going on there.
Right. Well, they say smoke and mirrors.
Yep.
Martineau also told other tales of Delphine's cruelty that were current among New Orleans residents in about 1836. She said that subsequently to the visit of the local lawyer in 1833, due to an incident one of Delphine LaLaurie's neighbors saw one of Delphine's slaves, who was a 12-year-old girl named Leah.
Yeah.
Like Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Fall to her death from the roof of the Royal Street Mansion while trying to avoid punishment from a whip-wielding Delphine.
Okay, that's an ugly scene right there. So she's... and trauma. We're taught,
And as the story goes, Leah was brushing Delphine's hair, hit a snag, as sometimes you do when you're brushing somebody's hair.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I was a hairstylist for 15 years, and there were times where I had people in my chair that have super sensitive scalps.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's what Delphine had, a super sensitive scalp, and just the little tiniest snag.
Yep.
They turn on you like you're the most horrible person in the world.
What are you doing?
Oh, you're hurting me. Sorry. Maybe brush your hair more often. So the snag in Delphine's hair caused Delphine to grab a whip and start chasing her.
Oh my God.
This poor little
girl. And she ran up to the roof for safety and then fell off the roof.
So Leah's body was subsequently buried on the mansion grounds, because where else are they going to bury them? Right. I mean, at that time too, I think that they had basically graveyards within the mansion, or not within the mansion, but on the grounds. So like
estate.
If you have a plantation, you're going to have your own little burial ground for the family. And according to Miss Martineau, this incident led to an investigation of the LaLauries in which they were found guilty of illegal cruelty and forced to forfeit 9 slaves.
Okay.
Well, these 9 slaves were bought back by the LaLauries through an intermediary.
There's so much wrong with that.
Intermediary.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
I get you.
Relative.
There's so much wrong with that whole scenario, that whole story.
It's horrible.
This is all right. But wow. Okay. So they buy them back after having them taken away because of treating them so horribly. Yeah.
Well. Anyway, Miss Martineau also told stories that Delphine kept her cook chained to the kitchen stove and beat her daughters when they attempted to free the slaves. So Delphine's daughters see what's going on.
And so they're trying to help and trying to free the slaves because of the abuse and the mistreatment that's going on. And then she starts beating her own daughters.
Yeah. Nice person.
This is a real character over here. Yeah. That terrible person.
Wonderfully enough, there was a fire at the mansion. So on the morning of April 10th, 1834, I have April 110th. Okay. Good typing. So on the morning of April 10th of 1834, fire broke out in the LaLaurie residence on Royal Street, beginning in the kitchen. The fire not only destroyed part of the mansion, but it also exposed 7 slaves who were starved, tortured, and chained to the upper part of the building.
That's horrible.
Right?
Were they killed in the? They were killed in the fire.
I'll get to that.
That's how you say. Okay.
I'll get to that.
You say expose.
It exposed them. So basically, the fire brought out police and fire marshals, and they found the cook, who was a 70-year-old woman chained to the stove.
What kind of woman is Marie?
Horrible, sadistic woman.
Yeah. So they find her, I'm curious. Now, did the cook or these other starving slaves? Okay, you jump.
So the cook reportedly started the fire to commit suicide because she was afraid of punishment. That's why there was a fire in the first place. So she was just trying to escape the
when
torture.
You said the fire started in the kitchen, my first thought was, maybe the cook started it. But I was thinking, to get
you're smarty too.
get back at Marie, but no. Okay, so that's even.
She said that. So the cook said that the slaves taken to the uppermost part of the mansion never came back. So that's what she was afraid of. Was like, so when they're getting punished, they get taken to the so probably the attic areas.
Yeah.
And then tortured, beaten, and killed. Yeah,
it sounds like she truly had this sadistic streak that just of sadism, like because even enjoyed being cruel to
Well, that's sadism.
Yeah. For those who don't know the definition.
And we're gonna keep repeating it until it gets beaten into your head because we're sadists too. No, I'm just kidding. As reported in the New Orleans Bee of April 11th, 1834, bystanders responded to the fire attempting to enter the slave quarters to ensure that everyone had been evacuated. Upon being refused the keys by the LaLauries, because why are they... Well, I own this house.
Yeah.
You don't need the key. Why do you need the key? The bystanders broke down the doors to the slave quarters and found 7 slaves, more or less horribly mutilated, suspended by the neck, with their limbs apparently stretched and torn from one extremity to the other. Isn't that horrible?
It's a shocking image to think about, and
I just think of like the tower, like I want to say the tower in England.
Yeah, right.
London Tower.
Tower of London.
Yeah.
Tower of London, the torture devices and
you're being drawn and quartered and I'm putting trigger warnings, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh wow, but that's just horrible to think about. And now, as you get into talking about some of the things that exist there now in terms of paranormal activity, I mean, is it any wonder,
right?
What's gone on there?
I know. So the nearly helpless were carried to the Cabildo, where they received medical treatment, food, and drink. So the people that came to kind of rescue them and broke down the door were able to get them to a place where they could be taken care of.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Okay. That is good.
Nearly 2,000 townspeople came to view the victims, which, I mean, just view them. Why are you going to be a looky-loo?
We've had some stories like that, and it seems like throughout, I would equate it to like now there's a murder or a serious crime, and then it becomes the 24-hour news station sensationalized, and everybody's interested. But back then, people would actually just go in the town to see the house where somebody had been murdered, or to see the.
There we go, rubberneckers.
Yeah, right.
Right at the beginning, we got rubberneckers.
Yeah.
It's horrible. One of those who entered the premises was Judge Jean-Francois Canong, who later dismissed to having found that the LaLaurie Mansion, among others... Wait. Oh. One of those who entered the premises was Judge Jean-Francois Canong, who later dismissed to having found in the LaLaurie Mansion, among others, a black girl wearing an iron collar and an old black woman who had received a very deep wound on her head, who was too weak to be able to walk. So, can you imagine what might have happened to them?
Yeah.
I mean, an iron collar.
Wow, the level of sadistic cruelty that these people were made to suffer is just,
These poor people. I feel so bad for them. Canong said that when he questioned Madame LaLaurie's husband about the slaves, he was told in an insolent manner that some people had better stay at home rather than come to others' houses to dictate laws and meddle with other people's business. Oh, shit. You are a little boy. Go home and play with your toys, little boy. A version of the story circulating in 1836 was told by Martineau, adding that the slaves were emaciated, showing signs of being flayed with a whip, were bound in restrictive postures, and wore spiked iron collars, which kept their heads in static position. So if they're wearing these iron collars with spikes. This is speculation. I don't know if this is actually the truth, but this is what Miss Martineau wrote way back then. That they're wearing iron collars, and you can only imagine that if they've got these on all the time, they eventually have to sleep, but the iron collars are like pointing in at their throats.
Right.
So they have to stay awake. They can't go like this.
Exactly.
They can't go like that. And they can't, go back, forward, whatever.
The level of vivid, horrific imagery involved in this story, the facts of this. Yeah.
Yeah. Appalled at what they saw, the people began gathering at the LaLaurie Mansion in expectation that the sheriff would arrest Delphine. However, the sheriff never arrived. As the day went on and no action was taken, the crowd slowly transformed into a mob of local citizens with only one thing on their mind. Can you guess?
Let's get Marie.
Oh, yeah. Revenge. Vengeance. Save these poor slaves. When Madame LaLaurie managed to escape the mob, the enraged crowd attacked the LaLaurie residence and demolished and destroyed everything upon which they could lay their hands. So that place was torn to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, just destroyed. They stripped the interior of its valuables and continued their assault by trying to dismantle the whole house by damaging the walls and the roof. By the next morning, they had nearly demolished the entire house.
Like, it's not the way that justice is supposed to unfold, but she had it coming.
She did have it coming. Details of the fire and the aftermath, as reported by eyewitnesses, emerged in the local newspaper during the following week. The Pittsfield Sun, citing the New Orleans Advisor and writing several weeks. So the Sun is supposedly like our Inquirer or Star or, kind of like the, ooh, Bigfoot, ooh, aliens, oh, the Bat Boy, stuff like that. So they're not really credible, but they did... they reported on some stuff. Mm-hmm. So, citing the New Orleans Advisor and writing several weeks after the evacuation of LaLaurie's slave quarters, claimed that 2 of the slaves found in the LaLaurie Mansion had died since their rescue. So, if you're amazed...
after undergoing that type of abuse and,
you just want to go home.
Exactly, that's it.
I'm done here.
Yeah.
Take me away. It added... We understand, quote unquote, in digging the yards, bodies have been disinterred and the condemned well in the grounds have been uncovered. Others, particularly of a child. So they found Leah's body in the ground. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she wasn't apparently poor Leah was not the only one buried on the grounds.
Right.
These claims were repeated by Martineau in her 1838 book, Retrospect of Western Travel. So you can probably find that at a Barnes & Noble near you.
Retrospect of a Western Travel.
Uh-huh.
Okay. With all of the crazy shit that's gone on in this story, that title is not...
It doesn't work.
That's not going to move the books. We need to go back to the publisher and get a new title.
Absolutely.
All right.
She had stated a number of unearthed bodies at 2, including the child.
Yeah.
The account was soon picked up by national publications. Madame LaLaurie was Madame LaLaurie was revealed as a monster, as you do, because you're a horrible person and you're murdering people and torturing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a monster. Or they also called her a demon in the shape of a woman. And also, fury itself escaped from hell.
Yeah. All seem like apt descriptions,
right?
Given the, her actions.
Fun. Okay, so she at this time is escaping justice, and she exiled herself to France. Because
so she still gets away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Madame LaLaurie's life after 1834 was not well documented for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, she went to France, though I think they might have some record of her in France.
Right, and they didn't have any like extradition.
Right. Well, Miss Martineau wrote in 1838 that Delphine LaLaurie fled New Orleans during the mob violence that followed the fire, taking a coach to the waterfront and traveling by schooner from there to Mobile, Alabama, and then to Paris. Though Madame LaLaurie's death is shrouded in mystery, much like her life was, there are records kept in France which show that she died on December 7th of 1849. So she's like 63-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
More significantly, letters exchanged with her children explained how Delphine wanted desperately to return to New Orleans, but her children forbid it, saying, "Don't you remember what happened there?"
Apparently she did not see it as that big a deal. She's like, oh, I got to get back to New Orleans.
I just want to go back to my hometown.
Yeah.
Her children, except for one who she had with Louis LaLaurie, all lived in the rest of their days with her in Paris, in the same house.
Okay.
Surrounded by the people she loves. Fine, whatever. So after...
I feel like she deserved a different end. I mean,
yeah.
We've heard about, and we've talked about on this show, like some really horrible characters throughout history. People who have committed atrocities that are just unthinkable.
Yeah.
But this lady stands as one of the absolute worst that that we've discussed at any point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, from the accounts that we
just
have unearthed here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
But there's also some stories that could be taken as myth, and we will get to that right after this break.
Thank you for tuning into the Graveyard Shift. We'll be taking a short break, so get off the treadmill, park your car, or just grab a cup of coffee during this brief intermission.
You can visit us at TheGraveyardShhift.com.
With 2 H's.
Also, you can view our videos on YouTube.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And email us at TheGraveyardShhift@gmail.com.
Also with 2 H's.
And now, back to our program.
And we're back on the Graveyard Shift. And Nicolette, you've been telling us all about the LaLaurie Mansion.
Episode. The horrific tales. Two murders and a man running away from you, and the acquisition of slaves being tortured, and beaten and starved and chained up, and just horrible things. Torture.
Yeah.
But I still want to go visit.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, so Marie escapes to France. She dies of natural causes.
Yeah. She did die of, probably a broken heart that she couldn't return to her native land of Nolens.
Right.
But, I mean, she's just a horrible person, and she deserved it. I think. Anyway, but now we're going to get into some of the myths that people have been kind of spreading around about her. So the folklore stuff. So many of the stories that are told about many of the stories that were told about the LaLaurie Mansion involve slaves being found under extreme conditions after the fire was extinguished. Right? So we kind of went over that. So that's not a myth, but...
Yeah, but
it's there.
But I'm sure some of the horrible things that people found, the stories have spread and the legends have grown. And
But one version of these stories begins with the condition of the slaves that were found when the authorities arrived. It was said that one of the slaves had their bones broken numerous times and set in unnatural positions, so that when she moved, her limbs remained crooked and bent, her gait reminiscent of a crab. Do you remember... I might put that up there. Do you remember the picture of that, the card at David Oman's house where it looked like the girl was on all fours and her knees were bent backwards.
Sure.
It was a Christmas card that he had that was just so bizarre.
Right. Like,
but that's okay. So I'll put it up.
Possessed imagery. Yeah. And so
it looks similar to
she
this.
Had the bones reset in this.
Right? But how though? I mean,
I didn't know that was possible. First of all, so but you know.
I guess if Louis LaLaurie was a chiropractor in a sense, he could probably break the bones and then reset them in odd ways. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem beyond the realm of possibility at all.
Anything's possible.
It's just horrible to think about. And
I don't want to. Another slave was said to have had a hole drilled into his head with a wooden spoon sticking out. Which, and now I have in parentheses, an obvious attempt to stir the brains of his poor soul.
Oh, God. Wow.
Yet another person was allegedly found with the skin peeled back so that the tissue and muscle was exposed.
I mean, this...
If you've ever seen, there's an exhibit that goes around where it's just muscle, people without skin, and it's really creepy.
With the body, the
body museum,
sure,
the body exhibit or whatever. So it's just muscle. There's no skin. You can see vessels. You can see it's tissue. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird and gross.
And
don't know that I would want to go see that exhibit.
I don't know that I would want to go see it either. In fact, I've had the opportunity and passed it up.
Have you?
And I'm not. I don't get queasy that easily. I don't. I have a strong stomach and interest in horror films.
Yeah.
But even just thinking about some of the things that we've been talking about has turned my stomach to the
Oof. Yeah.
But so okay, continue. Wow. Anyway, if this folklore is true, she was doing some sadistic, experimental type torture on the slaves.
Yeah. Well, yes, if this is true.
Yeah.
And yet another slave was said to have had their intestines removed from their body and wrapped around their naked waist. This seems like a real stretch to me because if you are disemboweled like that, you would not be alive.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
right?
I thought you meant around their waist and they were corpse. No, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, because that's...
I mean, it could be...
I mean, that would just be a murder.
Right?
Yeah.
It didn't say, but it could be that they found these people buried in the backyard like this.
Right.
Don't know. Well, I mean, also along with the guy with the hole drilled in his head and the spoon sticking out.
I mean, it is possible to drill a hole in the skull and maintain brain activity even to some extent. But that's
Others were covered with honey and black ants to be eaten alive. Ugh.
Oh, God.
The lucky ones, as the legend goes, were the ones who were found dead. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Okay, so yeah.
Seriously, the intestines wrapped around your naked waist?
That stretches
You're already dead.
Believability there.
Yeah. I can't suspend my disbelief on that one. I'm sorry.
And then you said the honey and the ants. Isn't that like they had that? Did you see Candyman?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, the honey and the bees, and that was a punishment for slaves in that area. Oh man, that's
horrible.
Ugh.
Why would anybody do that to another human being?
Yeah, unthinkable. Just
man. Anyway, many of these stories are exaggerations.
Yeah.
And can be traced back to books written by commentaries well after the fire broke out. So people that are just exaggerating to the extent where they're trying to make it just the most horrible of situations. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it makes for a really good horror story.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it does. And,
I don't know.
And and I'm sure there were enough really awful things that were true when people came throughout the town to see and were shocked by what they saw. And I'm sure the truth got stretched and things, were made even more graphic. But it doesn't mean that they weren't horrible enough.
Right?
The truth, yeah.
Ugh. Well, the more gruesome stories are renditions told by Jean Delavigne. Delavigne. I don't know. I'm not going to say that word. I'm going to butcher that name. Jean Delavigne. Okay. Somebody want to tell me? Okay. This person, Jean, wrote The Haunted House of Rue Royale she wrote The Haunted House of Rue Royale in 1946. So these are like super old tales. Yeah, they like to stretch the truth a lot. And yeah, their books read like stereo instructions.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's not all that interesting.
Right,
And they probably had to put in a lot of super grotesque, scary things in their books to make them interesting and more readable.
Sure.
It just makes sense. This Jean person claimed to have come across her information from old newspapers, accounts and interviews of neighborhood hearsay. So, yeah.
Yes.
Looky-loos and just gossipers.
Yeah, and gossipers, and yeah.
She also declared that when the house was sold, workmen went about the task of rebuilding the house. They uncovered numerous human skeletons beneath the house in all sorts of positions. Helter-skelter, barely covered with soil, shreds of fabric still adhering to their bones. Some of the skulls had holes in them. The authorities concluded that the bodies were those of former LaLaurie slaves, their bodies buried to hide the fact that they were killed inside the LaLaurie Mansion. Okay, now we're going to get to the stuff I like the most.
Yeah.
The ghost stories. Okay, so for almost 200 years, there have been reports of paranormal activity coming from the mansion.
Right.
It shouldn't surprise anyone that a lot of the hauntings can be traced back to the slaves that Madame LaLaurie kept on the property, obviously. Reports of moaning coming from the room where the slaves were kept are common.
Yeah.
Phantom footsteps echoing through the house with regularity. Many people who have stood near the house have reported feeling as if they were taken over by a negative energy.
Yeah, and this would be a place where this energy would be,
plentiful.
Plentiful.
And,
And I'm sure a lot of pain and trauma and dark, sad energy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorrow for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. People have reported hearing the tortured shrieks of the LaLaurie's mistreated slaves echoing through the streets surrounding the home. In the 1850s, the mansion was refurbished, but it would never shake the curse of the events that have fascinated the city of New Orleans. Owner after owner would come to ruin.
Yeah, really?
With none seeming to last more than a few years at most owning the place. Soon, no one wanted to live at the once grand and glorious mansion, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
By the 1870s, the mansion was cut up into dozens of tenement apartments.
Maybe this place should just not be built on. It just seems like, nobody needs to live there. All right, so tenements, okay.
So it turned into apartments, and mostly the apartments were occupied by immigrant dock workers and their families. Their children immediately began to hear unexplained moans and groans, disembodied screams, as if someone was burning human flesh.
Right.
Dragging of chains and scratching noises under the floorboards. Their parents would have none of these experiences. And wrote it off as their child's overactive imagination. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
However, this all changed when the immigrant dock worker came home. One of the immigrant dock workers came home one evening and found that a large black man bound in chains blocked his way up the stairs.
Oh, my.
Mm-hmm. He screamed at the man in his native tongue and move out of the way. And when the apparition did not budge, he used his hands to push the figure out of his way. But his hands went right through this apparition, and the figure dissolved into a cold mist.
Wow.
I love it how they just dissolved.
Yes. That's quite a story.
Despite all the ghost stories and paranormal happenings at the LaLaurie Mansion, it would be silly to assume that all of them can be tracked back to Madame LaLaurie and her mistreatment of slaves, obviously.
Right.
The LaLaurie Mansion has been on postcards as early as the 1880s and has been labeled the Haunted House of New Orleans.
Okay.
As you do.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to
right, exactly.
get spiritualists to come. Which I would have been a spiritualist way back when, for sure. In 1894, a tenant of the LaLaurie Mansion, which has been since converted into apartments, was found brutally murdered in his room.
Really?
Mm-hmm. His belongings were ransacked if someone had gone through them. The police assumed that he was a victim of robbery, even though nothing of value could be found missing.
Okay. But they
curiouser and curiouser.
They did attribute it to a theft murder.
That's what it looked like, but nothing was taken though, so that's a little weird.
Okay.
An interesting account in regards to his murder details, with the police interviewing neighbors about his disappearance. One of his friends claimed that he was having problems with sprites. Do you know what sprites are?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that's another little folklore-y thing. Some people don't think they exist. Sprites are similar to fairies in a way. They're like lights that flit around.
Yeah.
So
and not as widespread a belief in
right.
But that's interesting.
It's very. I feel like it's very much of an Irish folklore.
Yeah.
Sprites.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. So apparently it's, the dock workers might have been Irish. So they're...
Exactly. So they're
thinking that... Right. They're having beliefs in these sprites in the house. Very interesting. His friend...
Would you think, could orbs be mistaken or
I
as
would think
sprites
so.
or however you want to put it, attributed to be
sprites?
Sure.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Well, and his friend wrote it off as his imagination running wild, so...
Possibly.
As you do. But he did say something interesting. His friend had claimed that there was a demon in the house that wasn't going to rest until the man had met his end, at which he did.
Very scary. Very spooky.
Yeah. Well, he was found dead. Yeah.
That's...
People have spent the night in the home, reporting waking in the middle of the night to find a woman with long red hair glaring down at them as they slept. The same figure is reported by passersby on the street below, seeming to stare right through them as they walk by.
Yeah.
That's creepy. Many believe that this spirit was of Delphine LaLaurie, and she returned to New Orleans.
Really?
Well, because it's her happiest
it's her happiest place. She wants it. Yeah. Oh man, I please continue. But I have to say that while I've been so interested in visiting so many of the places that we've talked about here on episodes of the show, I don't know if I want to go to this one. I feel a little bit.
Here's the thing: you can't go in the house. They won't allow you to go in the house. But you can walk by it. People, I'll get into it, but there are several people that have gone on tours that have felt things and seen things. There's a lot. So the turn of the last century saw dozens of horrific tales become associated with the mansion. One story states that in the moments before the LaLauries fled the city, they pulled up the floorboards in one of the upstairs bedrooms. There were a dozen or more slaves shackled, still alive, with their mouths sewn shut. When their muffled moans and the clanking of their chains were heard, the noise was assumed to be ghosts. Their remains were discovered decades later during a renovation of the home. It would become the repository of all the worst that humans could imagine other humans were capable of, obviously.
Yeah.
Because, you wouldn't want that done to you. Why are you doing it to somebody else? It's horrible. The LaLaurie Mansion was also a school for girls. Did you know this?
No, not at all.
For a very short time.
Around what time was that?
So it's the mid to late 19th century.
Okay.
At first, it had been one of the few mixed schools. So you had like Irish kids and black kids going to, and boys and girls. But here, it had turned into a girls' school for black girls.
Okay.
And that's it's going to be horrible, just to let you know. So, okay. At first, it had been one of the few mixed schools in the city of New Orleans, but politics during the Reconstruction era were convoluted, and surely enough, soon after the school at 1140 Royale Street was converted to strictly an all-girls school for African Americans. It's African American primary school for girls. Very soon after the LaLaurie Mansion became a school for girls, reports of physical assaults came to light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really? Yeah,
I mean
that makes sense, yeah.
Slaves. And they're
exactly.
black slaves, and there's ghosts on yeah. The young girls were known to approach their teachers, tears running down their faces, with their sleeves rolled up. The exposed skin of their forearms were scratched and bruised. The teachers would demand to know who had done this to the girls, and the answer always came back, that woman.
That woman.
With the red hair. Yep.
Wow.
These girls may have been young enough that they possibly didn't know the story behind the LaLaurie Mansion.
Sure.
So they probably didn't realize that it was a ghost, and they definitely didn't realize that it was Madame LaLaurie.
Right.
And she had slaves, and she's now beating the girls because she's,
the fact that they didn't know the whole story makes it even their
more
accounts
credible.
Even more credible.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's also unlikely that the teachers in the girls' school told the 6, 7, or 8-year-old girls about the horrific torture, because why would you? They're young. And the starvation of the slaves that lived there decades before, right? One of the tour guides of the Ghost City tours, I told you I was going to bring these guys in, stood directly across the street from the front door of the LaLaurie Mansion, and to their right, another group on another tour was talking about the tragedies at the LaLaurie Mansion, and that's like 50 feet away from them. The story of 1834 was being slowly unveiled when all of a sudden the tour guide felt a tug on her messenger bag, which was draped over her shoulder. So if you could just something tugged her bag. She stopped in the middle of her story to look over her shoulder, thinking that she would find someone trying to pickpocket her, as you would, because it's New Orleans and there are creeps all around trying to steal
you feel
things.
your bag pulled, of course.
Yeah. But instead, she found no one behind her. Shrugging it off, she then went back to her tour and got back into character when, no less than 10 seconds later, she felt the tug again. This time it was harder. But she felt like it was a distinct yank on her bag. Once again, she whipped around and to find that there was, again, no one there. Crazy.
Pretty crazy.
2 weeks later, this same tour guide had been giving another tour, positioning her group under a set of street lamps that had not been working, like they'd been burnt out for weeks before.
Yeah.
Right? Still burnt out.
Right.
She started to tell the story, and when she got to the part about Leah jumping to her death to escape the punishment from Madame LaLaurie, and the minute she said Leah's name, the lamps flickered on.
Really?
Yeah. They had been burnt out.
Wow.
The crowd was in awe, and this tour guide went on with her story. When she said Leah's name again, those same lamps all blew out again. And the light was gone.
Wow.
I want to go on that tour.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
This notoriety makes the building something of a prized possession, but like the Hope Diamond, its beauty and majesty seem to exact a painful price. You know the Hope Diamond is also cursed, right?
Sure.
One owner after another comes to a bad end. One opened a haunted pub.
Oh, yeah, really? Where?
At the LaLaurie Mansion.
At the LaLaurie, okay.
Oh, yeah. Which he was forced to close a few short years later, which I'm so sad about because I wish that I could have gone there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shortly before this, he passed on the house to its last documented spirit, and a suite upstairs was rented to a curious old man who died just days after moving in, and among his belongings was $10,000 in gold. His spirit is said to still haunt the hallways of the mansion, seeking his misplaced fortune.
Are you serious? Wow.
Owners,
so much at this place. Yeah.
So many owners.
Right.
So much. I mean, yes, of course. That land is definitely haunted.
Yeah.
And cursed. For sure cursed. Like Benedict Canyon is cursed.
Exactly. And you really, you feel like, well, I mean, that this place is just not meant to have.
No.
People living, working, running businesses, owning.
No.
Or property on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is this is one for the books today. We're like one of the craziest stories and most interesting places that you've been telling us about today.
Yeah, let me tell you about some more owners of this cursed place. So owners through the decades found their health, sanity, and wealth ruined by the touch of this accursed building. One owner ended his days in an asylum. Another slipped into a coma right after a bar fight. And one of the most famous owners of this mansion, Sir Nicolas Cage.
Oh, are you serious?
Bought the place in 2009, just after Hurricane Katrina hit.
Yeah.
Right? But he lost it soon after because of bankruptcy. His career tanked not long after that, and New Orleanians say that it must be the curse of the LaLaurie Mansion causing his downward spiral. Yeah.
Well, he did make Mandy last year, which was one of the best films of the year. But,
he's really trying to build himself up. He did.
No, but that is an interesting take on that, man.
Yeah, he has since sold the place.
Yeah,
because if you want to be an actor and you own a super haunted place like that is said to be cursed, even if you don't believe it, you should, because I mean,
you're going
to lose something.
Exactly,
life. Your life, for one, maybe. You go into bankruptcy, lose all your money and your career.
Yeah.
I mean...
Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't buy a mansion there.
No. I don't take curses lightly, and I don't disbelieve them, because it's probably pretty true. I mean, I'm not buying a house in Benedict Canyon, that's for sure.
No. We'll talk about that in another episode.
Oh, yeah. Notorial records show that since Delphine LaLaurie, no one has lived at 1140 Rue Royale for more than 5 years at a time. And that is the story of the LaLaurie Mansion.
What a story today, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
Just horrific.
Just terrible, terrible stuff. Like really, one of the more, and even thinking about the paranormal aspect afterwards, often that can be, I really find it so frightening and chilling to me. But coming out of the horrible things that happen there, it all, makes sense.
It's bone chilling.
Yeah.
Bone chilling story. Definitely it's one of the places that I've wanted to go and do like a ghost walk tour.
Yeah.
To go see. I actually watched an episode. I'm going to plug a show on the Travel Channel. It's called Famously Afraid.
Okay. I think I've heard of that, yeah.
So it's a newer show. It's kind of like Celebrity Ghost Stories.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But they're kind of bringing it back. So there's a mom and a daughter that was on the show called Dance Moms.
Sure. Didn't watch it, but I'm well aware of it.
Yeah, okay. Everybody's heard about it. It's kind of like the... what do you call that? What is that show with Honey Boo Boo?
I thought that was Dance Moms,
nope.
Isn't it? No. Okay, all right. Well, we're clearly not big fans of trash reality TV.
I don't like trash TV. No. But Dance Moms. So a woman and her daughter went to New Orleans as part of the Dance Moms show.
Yeah.
And the girl is staying with some other girls in another room, and the mom's staying in her own room, whatever. But they're like kind of across the street from it. They go on a ghost tour. They pass by the LaLaurie Mansion, and somebody takes a picture of like the front door or something, and they catch in the picture the image of a black man who just looks so horrifying. Like he's just mad dogging. I'm going to say the new term, mad dogging these girls for being right outside of the LaLaurie Mansion. Like you're not supposed to be here, get away, kind of thing. And they saw the picture and they were frightened. They didn't want to go back, you know. So I mean, there's plenty of accounts of paranormal activity. Yeah,
I would believe it. I definitely would believe it. This place sounds like a place swirling with painful energy.
Yeah. I mean, New Orleans is just one of the most spiritually inclined places in America as it is.
Right.
So to put this type of torture on top of that is just it sounds like a portal to hell. That
it really does. Yeah. It sounds like that's his prime spot.
Yeah.
But
thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us. It was a dark and
twisted
road today, and some horrible imagery and horrible events in history that are terrible to think about.
Definitely.
But very interesting story, and we did hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Nicolette.
I'm Sean.
And thanks for listening to The Graveyard Shhift.
Like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.
See you in the graveyard.